Good morning, colleagues. I would like to call our meeting to order and start with agenda item 8. As many of you know, this was deferred from Tuesday. And with that, let me invite Mr. Wisner to give an update of his consultation.
Thank you, Co-Chair. Just to report back, I think everyone was in the meeting a couple days ago, so we don't need to revisit that. But there were areas where the CSO network had some concern, and I think some of the council members had suggested that we go back and try to achieve consensus in certain areas. It's our understanding that we have in fact done so. I think everyone now has a paper in front of them that notes certain edits that were made to the document that were agreed to, that are acceptable and accepted by the CSO network. And I can just walk through those quickly and flag those for everyone. One is with respect to the selection process. We've deleted the reference to a third-party entity being selected, and now the text states that the working group recommends the GEF Secretariat will be responsible for the selection of sponsored CSOs for council consultations, and goes on from there. And again, the emphasis being on sponsored, which is those who are funded in terms of their flights and per diem to come. Obviously, unfunded CSOs are welcome to join and listen in or be in the spillover room as well. And then it just notes the procedural issue and makes an inclusion of indigenous peoples, so it now reads, the selection will be done in a transparent manner based on clear criteria and in consultation with the CSO network, operational focal points, the Indigenous Peoples Advisory Group, and the GEF Small Grants Program to establish a comprehensive list of CSOs from which to draw those to be sponsored to attend the council meetings. So that's one change on the selection issue. With respect to the number of CSOs who would be sponsored to come to council meetings, the practice had evolved to a place where it had been 30 for each of the council meetings. That's why we had proposed that it be reduced to 10 to 15, which we felt still was reasonably generous vis-a-vis other funds, and which still, though, allowed enough sponsored CSOs to come and be able to provide contributions from different regions and perspectives and so forth. However, the number was a bit of a sticking point, but we've just agreed to have the text changed to that the Secretariat will have a streamlined number of individuals, or invite a streamlined number of individuals depending on the agenda and budget. So that's redlined on the paragraph 7 of the recommendations. There was some concern with respect to something that was not intended with respect to the day before council meetings. There is the CSO council consultation. We made some provisions to have a deep dive discussion of a specific topic and have a presentation on a topic to be determined earlier. That was never intended to eliminate the CSO's ability for the rest of their consultation day to take up whatever other topic they wish to take up. So we just have some language that clarifies that and that makes specific reference to indigenous peoples and the issues that they want to discuss. The last thing is just in the final recommendation, we put a specific date on the next review, which will be in 4 years' time. So otherwise, the document's unchanged. There were other edits made to the body of the document in order to conform with the changes in the recommendations up front. We believe that this addresses a number of the concerns the CSOs raised, and so we can put it to others for a decision.
Thank you for your presentation and leadership on this important matter. Can I seek the Council's approval to adopt this draft decision? Thank you very much. Javad, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the job done. So the CSO participation is important for all of us. But just I have the question for clarification. And then in the meeting that we had, we talked about geographic distribution. I appreciate that the Peter explained that the geographical distribution is there or not. Thank you.
I believe that there are references to geographic distribution here. Certainly that's the intent, and I believe it's been written into the document. But I can confirm as the chair of the working group that's concluding its work that certainly geographic representation, from broadly speaking, from different regions of the world is something that we seek to achieve in the context of this proposal.
Thank you. Can I take it that we can adopt? Okay, thank you very much.
So let's move on to any other business. And William, please.
Thank you. So as usual under this point, we set the date for a year and a half from now, so that would be the 56th meeting, and the proposal is the week of June 3 to 6, 2019. We've checked as much as we could different websites and other meetings that are related where you might be busy, and found so far that this week is free. So June 3 to 6 is the proposal. 2019, June 3 to 6, 2019. Just for your information, so to remind you, the 54th meeting is in June next year in Da Nang. The 55th meeting is November 26 to 29 next year. And so the proposal is that the following one, which is the 56th, should be on June 3 to 6, 2019. Okay, there's no questions, so that's taken care. I'd just like to take this opportunity, since I mentioned the next time we meet will be in Da Nang. Let me just remind everybody, number one, it's going to be very hot. So it's the peak of the season. So, business casual, relaxed, comfortable clothes, because the different parts where the conference will be held are not all under the same roof. So you will be moving from one section to another in the open air. So that's going to be warm. Second point is that because it is the height of the season, get your tickets and your reservation. The holiday season in that part of the world, because this Da Nang is a seaside resort, so hotels will be busy and flights will be busy. So do get your reservations in early. Those that are being financed by the GEF, we've already made reservations in hotels. But for those of you who make your own reservations, recommendation is do it early, so you're sure to get what you want. Thank you very much.
So, US, please.
Thank you, Chair. When we had discussed the work program, there were certain documents or certain projects that we felt should come back be for recirculation prior to CEO endorsement. And at the time, I think we didn't realize we had to specify each one individually on the record at this time. But so we will do that now. We request that the following projects be recirculated for council review prior to CEO endorsement. These are GEF by ID number 9801, 9917, 9551, 9777, 9189, 9263, 9683, 9571, 9913, 9759, 9743, 9796, 9810, 9368. Thank you.
Thank you. Noted. Okay, thank you so much. Actually, that here that we now move on to LDCF, SCCF council meeting. While we come back that later, that concluding summary. So let us now start, get on with an LDCF, SCCF council. The first, let me open the council meeting by saying a few words. Welcome everybody to LDCF SCCF Council. And I think, as we all know, that the recent event devastated, particularly the recent event of the tropical hurricanes, floods, and monsoon everywhere, really devastated the small island states of the poorest part of the world. And that actually, there was a clear reminder, the stark reminder that what kind of challenge actually we are facing. And it actually was very clear during this autumn when we attended that World Bank annual, IMF annual meeting here. Quite a number of discussion sessions are dedicated to how we can address this resilience adaptation issue of coming from this climate change. And then that also at COP23, I think I said that in my opening at the GEF Council meeting, in fact, this adaptation, the resilience has been that forefront, really the heart of this discussion in many, many cases. And one thing which I was kind of very much warmed up is it's not just a part of the world, it's really not only national government, but cities, subnationals, communities, local communities and indigenous people, then business and finance, CSOs, the many diverse multi-stakeholders really came together to try to find out the solution to this very immediate, urgent and issues. So that was something I kind of noticed, that a clear change from the past, in my own opinion. And at BOM, and also since the last council meeting, we have also received quite a number of new pledges, particularly if I list them, the Germany, Sweden, Belgium, and the Walloon region of Belgium. And indeed, those announcements of those pledges was among the highlights of the COP23 in Bonn. And again, I would like to thank all of those donors and for their kind contribution. On the delivery side, I think I also mentioned this in opening, but then among other things that we announced our contribution to the launch of the CRAFT fund. CRAFT actually stands for Climate Resilience and Adaptation Finance and Technology Transfer Facility, the CRAFT. This is actually developed by Light Smith Group, and this is highly innovative instrument, investment fund, which is actually endorsed by the Climate Innovation Lab, and will the first thing of its kind, and dedicated to the companies which are focusing on the climate resilience related activities. And actually, it's interestingly, as an equity growth fund, they are aiming at the return to the investors. Other partners of this fund is actually the Nordic Development Fund and the Conservation International, so that this kind of new initiative attracted also a lot of interest, and I think we contributed in that way, quite, put our envelope to the new territory. And I, again, would like to thank the donors. And this one actually came from SCCF, but a very good development in my opinion. So on our side at the LDCF and SCCF, as you all know, it's very important for us to keep the momentum ongoing. And as you know, that there is always that excess demand compared with the available resources. This huge gap of the resource available to us actually has caused a lot of problem in terms of not only just the delivery and response to countries which are in need, but also that have impacted the effectiveness and the quality of our own delivery. And that's actually one of the issues we would like to take up at this council as important consultation with you. So with that, we would like to get on the business, but I also would like to open the floor that which some of you may want to join that momentum going. Stefan, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the overview over the very interesting new developments in LDCF and SCCF. Allow me to start out with a good news. It's about Swiss contribution to the LDCF. The amount is in US dollars approximately 1,930,000 to the LDCF, and about let me do the math, $510,000 to the SCCF. May I add something about the last new venture that you mentioned of the SCCF, the partnership with the Lightsmith Group and the CRAFT, the climate resilience? I think it's a very interesting, and this is the kind of things that are potentially high reward but also high risk. And this is what we always push LDCF and SCCF in particular, and the GEF, to undertake. It's not without risks, but it is something that sounds very interesting, because for those of us that are in climate negotiations, we always hear there's hardly any business case in climate resilience and adaptation. Let's test the water and let's see where that leads us to. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stefan. Marita?
Thank you. I will comment upon the report. Right. Is that correct?
This is only a kind of opening and creating momentum session. Just please.
Thanks. I interpret it as the good news show, right? Okay. Then,
Momentum show.
Thanks for mentioning us and one of our regions. Yes, we are happy we could top up our contribution that we already announced last year. We're trying to do something about the predictability of the fund. So we can't guarantee that we can continue doing that each and every 3 years, but at least, as you know, we have been able to pledge 8 million euros per year for 16, 17 and 18. The plan is to hopefully next year also then do that for 19, 20, 21. Besides that, that's also why you will see in the status report that part of the outstanding pledges is 8 million from Belgium that we are not going to pay now, but next year we will. But besides that, we have, since the LDCs are our absolute, in French they say chouchou, priority, political priority. We have been able to top up that with another 7 million this year. We also did that last year, hopefully next year also. And then on top of that, the Walloon government has also contributed. Remind me how much, because it's not my money.
3.25 million.
Okay. Not more than the federal government. That was what I wanted to know. As I said, we trying to do something on the predictability. Can only invite other donors to intend it also. I know each country has its rules and on budgeting, and so I can't even guarantee that we will do that forever and ever. But in the meantime, when possible, I think it's a help for the fund and for the LDCs to have some more predictability. Thank you.
Thank you, Jos. Marita, followed by Kojura.
Thank you. We think LDCF is doing very important work and to support developing countries in preparation of the implementation of the NAPs, and therefore we would like to encourage other donors to also come forward. We pledged 185 million Swedish crowns in Bonn at COP23. I don't know how much that would be in dollars, but I think it's close to 20 million euros, roughly. And then we also pledged at the last COP22 and about 50 million Swedish crowns. So all in all, we would really like to encourage others. Thank you.
Thank you, Marita. Kojura, please.
Well, since this is the moment of the good news, Germany also pledged at the COP23 50 million euros for the LDCF for this and the coming year. And I would like to join Marita in her call for other donors to join us and to make the financing for the LDCF more predictable.
Thank you so much. We will discuss this predictability issue a little later. I also want to note that German government contribution to adaptation fund, and thank you so much for your contribution in that regard. All right, so this may be the end of a happy moment or moment. So we move on to the, Jos, yes?
Again, I don't have the right number, but since you mentioned the adaptation fund, the Walloon region also contributed to that.
That is true. Yes, actually, I met them, the representative, and they are okay. Even they're small in the amount, their passion is very, very good, as equally as national government. Okay, so should we move on to the next agenda item, which is adoption of the agenda? I think co-chair continue to serve, and as a co-chair, Jane continue to serve as co-chair throughout this session, and we now want to ask the adoption of the agenda in front of you. Okay, it seems the agenda adopted. So let's move on to the first item of the agenda, which is actually the presentation of the LDCS SCCF is a progress report. So Gustavo, please.
Thank you very much, Naoko. Good morning. I hope the report also conveys some good news, amongst other things. So it's a great pleasure to introduce the document, the progress report on the LDCF and SCCF, that provides a report since the inception of the funds and also from the reporting period, which covers April of 2017 to October of 2017. Where's the remote control? Can you put the presentation on, please? You didn't put a presentation. How can we? Okay, since there is a glitch here in the presentation, let me move on so we don't have a lot of time. So during this reporting period, there were no new pledges. We just heard some new pledges just now, but the period didn't include them. And I'll touch on this later on in the presentation. So the cumulative pledges for LDCF amount now to 1.23 billion, and this represents the value change since March 31st of 2017. 98% of all this pledge has been paid to date. There was an increase in paid contributions of 32.6 million during the reporting period. And as of the time of the writing of the document, 24.8 million pledges remained outstanding. Yeah, I'm just moving so that as of October 2013, 2017, which is the reporting period, 50 LDCs have accessed a total of $1.763 billion for 199 projects in support of the implementation of their NAPAs. In addition, 3 global projects with LDCF resources amounting to 13.69 million have been approved to support the preparation of national adaptation plans, processes in the LDCs, and also the implementation of elements of the LDC work program other than NAPAs. The progress report provides a summary of the expected portfolio level results coming out of 140 projects that have been endorsed or approved by the GEF CEO, and provides an estimate of the number of direct beneficiaries. These projects with LDCF resources amount to 794 million, and they seek to reduce the vulnerability of more than 20 million people. As important, given the mandate of LDCF to support the preparation of NAP process in LDCs, 76 LDCF projects already support 44 countries in their efforts to integrate climate change adaptation into 200 national development plans and frameworks. LDCF also assists countries in laying the groundwork for climate resilient development to 78 projects that will enable 41 countries to strengthen their national hydromet and climate information systems. Now, in terms of pledges for SCCF, as of the reporting period of October 13 of 2017, cumulative pledges to SCCF amounted to 351.8 million and reflect no change since April 10 of 2017 during the reporting period. Of the total resource pledged, 99% have been paid. As of the reporting period, also 81 countries have accessed 348.6 million for 77 projects under the SCCF. This represents no increase for the reporting period. That's why we don't have projects for the Council to appreciate on SCCF. In terms of expected results from projects that have been endorsed or approved, out of 51 projects that have been endorsed, we have an estimated 6.8 million people affected in a positive way to reduce their vulnerability. In addition, 33 SCCF projects already approved are supporting 50 countries in their efforts to integrate climate change adaptation in 140 national development plans and processes. During this reporting period, we had 4 LDCF projects endorsed or approved by the GEF CEO, one in Afghanistan, another one in Benin, one in Senegal, and also a multi-trust fund project that brings resources from the GEF Trust Fund alongside LDCF project that went for Bhutan. So this is all that you missed. So this is the project in Afghanistan. The project aims to provide access to climate-related early warning information to 14,000 people, supporting 60 community development plans that aim to integrate climate change and climate-induced disaster risk management into development planning, and the training of 160 people to integrate climate risks and opportunities into national development plans. The other project I'm illustrating here, since we don't have a lot of time to cover all of them, is the project in Benin that will aim to benefit approximately 13,000 people and also 6,500 people that benefit directly from the adoption of more climate-resilient agricultural technologies and practices. This will affect 6,200 hectares of land with more resilient water and land management practices. The project is also building technical capacity of government officials as a measure of sustainability for the long haul, as well as introducing private entrepreneurs into the design of the project to build climate-resilient agricultural infrastructure. It's also worth noting that the project is engaging 3,000 women in livelihood diversification activities to help them better cope with climate impacts and also increasing their business skills for small and medium enterprises. These are the figures that initially we touched upon and you announced since the reporting period. So we didn't have it in the report because they come from COP23 and more recently now from Switzerland as well. So we didn't add that. 1.9 million for LDCF and 510,000 from SCCF, and thank you, Switzerland, for that. We also would like to report, as Naoko has already mentioned, of the approval of this MSP, $1 million for the CRAFT project. It's going to be the first of its kind on climate-resilient investment fund. The idea here is to have a first closing of $100 million of commercial investments, and the final target is $500 million. And also we are glad to report in COP23 as well, the GEF has offered to provide insights and experience emerging from our portfolio to the recently launched Global Center of Excellence on Climate Adaptation. So this was a highlight of COP23 as well. And the Netherlands has had a great leadership in putting this together. Thank you. With that, I close the report, and we can go back to the chair for further delivery.
Thank you, Gustavo. So floor is yours. Any comments, questions, observations? Okay, thank you so much. All right, thanks. So let's move on to another very important policy item of how can we improve our predictability of the resources. Gustavo, we may have some ideas, right?
So I call your attention to an information paper that's entitled Strategic Alignment of the LDCF Pipeline. This document was prepared at the request of the Council at the 22nd meeting of the LDCF, which is the last one, and asked us to prepare an options paper on how we can achieve more strategic and innovative use of funds in the LDCF pipeline, along with a more strategic treatment of incoming project proposals. The document aims to propose some factors that could be considered and elaborated further towards a more strategic and innovative use of resources in the pipeline. So in this context, and in alignment with the GEF 7 replenishment cycle, the GEF Secretariat was already planning to develop a new programming strategy for climate change adaptation that is due in the 24th Council, the next Council, to cover the period of 2018 to 2022, like we do every time. And in this context, we would like to include these options within the framework of the programming strategy. And we don't have, of course, a solid or definitive proposal, but among the factors that were included in this information paper is alignment with the needs identified in national plans, such as in national adaptation programs of action, or also in national development plans and strategies. We also thought about the way to level of LDCF resources that have been previously accessed by the country to help facilitate access by countries underserved by LDCF to date. Also, opportunities to foster innovation. This has been something that you have commented on occasion. coming from both funds now that we have a solid baseline to build from, particularly investments for technology transfer in line with the COP23 guidance. We also taking a closer look at the timing of technical approval projects. Sometimes because of the lack of funds, projects tend to remain in the pipeline for quite some time, and the design ages pretty quickly. But we have introduced a practice of revising with the agency every project that has been in the pipeline for over a year, so that's already under operation. There has also been calls from Council to look into projects that have the potential for private sector engagement. I think Stefan mentioned the craft as one in SCCF, which looks at that specifically. We also could look into the pipeline for opportunities to leverage and catalyze support from other sources, including the GEF Trust Fund, like we had the Multi-Donor Trust Fund in Bhutan recently. And also try to continue having geographic balance of LDCF support that's provided by both funds. This is not an exhaustive list of options, but it gives you an idea of where this discussion could be going. So given that the LDCF was established through a decision by the COP to UNFCCC, the Justice Secretariat would like to carry out consultations with the least developed countries in this process, in addition to the Council, donors, and key stakeholders, and reflect on this feedback in the process of the strategy development and considering these different options and factors that will be included and put for your consideration alongside or within the ambit of the new strategy for 2018-2022. So your views on this plan and your initial reactions would be great as guidance for us. And with that introduction, I'll pass on to Naoko.
Thank you so much. So may I ask your views and comments on this presentation? How we good? Actually, okay. Kojura, please.
So we welcome the continued demand for LDCF finance project by recipient countries, and we see that there is procedural challenges with regards to predictability and implementation. We therefore appreciate that the LDCF has taken on board the feedback received in the evaluation and response to the request of the 22nd Council for an options paper presenting approaches to a more strategic and innovative use of funds in the LDCF pipeline and a more strategic treatment of incoming project proposals. We welcome that the presented document provides a comprehensive analysis of weaknesses and room for improvement and suggests a solid update of approval processes in the LDCF, including moving away from a only first-come, first-served basis. We appreciate that it is intended to align the further elaboration of strategic options with the new programming strategy for climate change adaptation that will be developed by the GEF Secretariat for the period 2018 to 2022. We recommend putting more emphasis on wide stakeholder engagement, especially with LDC recipient countries, for updating strategy options, approval criteria, processes, and policies. Consultations are being mentioned in the document. However, this should be further integrated into the approach and should be specified, emphasized, and elaborated further to ensure full buy-in and alignment with LDC needs. We highly recommend putting more thought onto elaborating what options exist for reducing the unpredictability issue. It has been mentioned as one point for the new strategy development, but given its importance and significance for the current challenges of the LDCF, this aspect should be more in the focus of the strategic considerations and updating of policies and procedures. Looking at projects entering the pipeline, we should ask if a rolling basis is the best approach. The Secretariat should look at the possibility of issuing calls for proposals once a certain amount of funds is available, This could allow for a clearer definition of priorities and criteria in the selection. Looking at the projects selected out of the pipeline, we very much welcome the criteria drafted in the document and we value the LDCF as a contributor to effective climate adaptation in LDCs. To make a convincing argument in favor of the fund with donors in general, we believe that the LDCF should be able to demonstrate a more strategic approach, funding innovative and up-to-date projects. Thank you.
Thank you. May I call on Jos, Vice?
Thanks, and thank you for this document. I think it lays out the process very well. It's important to start with this and then consult widely, especially the LDCs, we believe. And of course, I mean, we're in the very initial stage of this, but we find that definitely I'm always hesitating to say to talk over prioritization, but you're mentioning it yourself. How to handle this continuous, I mean, well, high demand, lack of funds, and then we're stuck now with a pipeline, many projects. We have to wait until money comes in, and then there's a big outflow, probably. Most of the projects are sitting there for a while. You need to review them to see if they're still up to date, and so that's an extra cost also. And with very few resources in the fund, we have to be as cost efficient as possible. So we're inclined to support the batch of projects approach, which means work program. Of course, it may trigger other questions which are not tackled here, like is there a minimum required for a work program, and what would that be? We see in the SCCF experience nowadays, we haven't had a work program for years probably, because there's not enough money. So so there's this waiting that we have to make if we are not going to get stuck with the work program approach like the SCCF. On the other hand, I think yes, it is good to use factors, as you call it, criteria. From our point of view, I think that the first one, alignment with the needs identified in national plans, is certainly an important one. We don't want to put necessarily a hierarchy in these factors. I don't know if they're all needed, but what we see from the Belgian point of view is that I mean, the alignment with existing plans is always going to be sort of a guarantee that the project will ultimately have probably more effect, more impact, and be sustainable. So we think that's an important one. We believe that the second one, the level of LDCF resources previously assessed by the country, needs to be taken into account, because we want to have, of course, all LDCs covered. This ties in with your number G, which is the geographical balance in a way, and well, the other ones are important too. But I'm wondering if they are as important as the ones that we prefer. But I mean, we're open to discuss. Other people may have other ideas, and in the first place, we want you to listen to the LDCs. So looking forward to how this further develops. Maybe I mean, I haven't had my head completely around this yet. I think we're still in the process of thinking about it. But I mean, if you should we agree on factors and applying to optimize and so. We're almost a batch approach is almost unavoidable, right? Because how would you compare and choose? So, but I don't know if I'm entirely right. And then you say even with the batch approach, the work program approach, projects could continue to be supported on a first come first served basis. I don't know how that would work, but. If you have factors and work programs, but because the work program would be built on money in the bank, I suppose. Okay, I'll leave it at that. But thanks for the document.
Thank you so much, those very useful food for thoughts. Basically, what we are proposing is to initiate the informal consultation, not necessarily going into the, the elements of the yet. But then I think it was really useful for us to hear that. Marita, followed by Rebecca.
Thank you, Chair. We welcome this initial work, which we think is very important, and I think this will contribute to better predictability and contribute also to strengthen the quality of the pipeline and transparency, which is very important, I think, in the project cycle. We also welcome the consultations that you suggest, but I would just like you to clarify the next steps. I see that you suggest we should discuss this at the Council in June, but how do you see the next thing?
Thank you. Let me hear the Rebecca, and we come back to you.
All right, thank you very much. On behalf of the United States, I'd just like to thank the GEF Secretariat for the preparation of the progress report on the LDCF and SCCF. Additionally, I'd also like to thank the GEF Secretariat for beginning the work on approaches for strategic prioritization of project proposals in the LDCF and the LDCF pipeline, and also for the development and implementation of a plan for updating technically cleared PIFs in the LDCF pipeline. We think that this work can helpfully maximize progress made towards the goal of the GEF adaptation program, increasing resilience in vulnerable developing countries. We want to express our willingness to engage in consultations with the GEF Secretariat ahead of the 24th LDCF SCCF Council meetings for the development of a process for the GEF programming strategy for climate change adaptation, and also to include matters relating to the strategic alignment that we've been discussing here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Gustavo, cheers, or any response?
Thank you for your support to the directions that are contained in an information paper. I think we got quite useful feedback and a good mandate to start working on this. We don't have a huge amount of time, and we truly believe that the consultation process should be key. We also seeking from all of you to be available for informal consultations as we move forward with different, because we don't have another meeting point in between now and June, that we will seek your guidance as you are interested in participating on this, in addition to the consultations we'll be undertaking with the recipient countries. But Chiz, you may have additional suggestions on this and how we...
Thank you. Just to encourage countries as well as stakeholders that might be interested in engaging in consultations with us, please reach out to us and let us know, and we will lay out the process forward.
Okay. CSO Network, please.
Okay. And thank you very much, Chair. Having considered the working document, the GEF CSO Network greatly appreciates the donors to the LODCF and SCCF, and notably the LODCF that has programmed about $1.19 billion for projects, programs, and enabling activities to meet the special needs of LODCs, to adapt to the impacts of climate change, in addition to raising the flexible ceiling to United States dollars, about 40 million, to accommodate growing demands from LODCs. Now, we note that the available resources does not match with the progressively increasing demand from LODCs. We further note the insufficient cash transfers from contributing participants and the coming in of donor pledges in unaligned cycles. Further, we note that the pipeline of technically cleared projects comprised of 24 projects is requesting a total of 170.4 million United States dollars from the LODCF. As a result, therefore, we encourage the GEF when carrying out consultations to develop a new programming strategy for climate change adaptation for the GEF 7 with least developed countries, relevant donors, and other stakeholders to include the GEF CSO Network Technical Sub-Committee. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Mohammed, please.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Mrs. Chair. I seize this opportunity to first of all congratulate you and thank the team for the remarkable work on LDCF, SCCF. I just wanted to repeat our appreciation for the work done and especially for the substance of this report. Once again, it shows the high performance and the level of accomplishment that we always notice. As it was already said, the LDCF is something very specific for GEF. As you know, as everybody knows, our countries are really counting on this instrument for many, many reasons. I think that it is obvious that we have a gap right now, and we are trying to fill it progressively. It seems to me that the resources that we have obtained are now more or less dependent on the climate COPs. Recently in Bonn, we have noticed an evolution. Probably the next evolution will not be expected before COP24. And so I would like to make the Secretariat and the donors aware that as soon as possible we should have a vision, because the majority of countries are with a ceiling 40. So we need more fluidity in the communication between the Secretariat and our countries, because this is a specific case which is not applied to other countries on trust fund, for instance, or SCCF. So I think the specific LDCF case requires more proximity so that the countries would really know what happens to them. And once again, let me thank you. And I confirm that from our point of view, the donors should continue supporting these funds. It's a priority, because all the other funds that have been announced since 2007, the Adaptation Fund, the Green Fund, the other instruments that have been born since 2007, none of this really arrived. It never managed to replace the importance of the LDCF for the LDCs. Thank you very much, Mrs. Chair.
Thank you so much, your kind words. Thank you so much for from this room to support the initiation of the informal consultation. As we already hear, it's not really that easy thing. There's a lot of things we need to put our thoughts, but then I do really appreciate that your support to kick off the consultation, which is important. And I would like to make sure that this process is, as you already requested, that transparent and inclusive and useful to everyone. And we definitely will get back to you. But please also let us know that if you are interested in joining. I just forgot to seek your approval of the previous item, which is the progress report. But I hope that you are nodding, that we can actually seek your approval for this progress report, which we just introduced. So thank you so much that the proposed decision approved. And with that, I think that we are almost coming to the end of this LDCF SCCF Council meeting, and we want to go back to the GEF Trust Fund Council meeting for joint summary of co-chairs. Did I miss something?
Just a quick, if there.
All right. Any other business for LDCF SCCF Council? Okay. Nothing. Good. Could I, should we move back to GEF Main Trust Fund? Okay. Maybe you can just explain where we are on this.
Okay, thank you. The next item, getting back to the GEF Trust Fund Council agenda, would be the joint summary of the co-chairs, which, as you know, contains basically the text of the decisions that were taken and a little bit of descriptive at the beginning. So that has been sent to the printers, and we'll get it here as quickly as we can. Then we normally go through it paragraph by paragraph. The co-chair will put it through. So if you give us a few minutes, we'll get this printed version. Now, since we didn't take a group photograph, as we always do, we can try a new way to invite the council members and alternates to stand around the table, and the photographer will take us with the GEF logo in the back. And that will give us some time, if you wish.
You want to try here?
Yeah, let's try here. Instead of going out to the staircase, let's just stand around here. Can we invite you to the front for the photograph? We'll face this way. The photographer will take us from that way, and we'll get the GEF logo up on the screen.
So we need to clean up here.
Yeah, but you should remain sitting so we get levels. Yeah, we're asking the council members and alternates to come and stand around the table, if you don't mind.
Can I invite the council members and alternates to the front so we can take our photo?
In the meantime, I've been asked about the informal check-in. The informal check-in will take place in this room immediately following the finalization of the council, and for those who are staying in this room, there will be box lunches outside. So you pick up your box lunch, you bring it in, and you have your informal check-in. Okay? Thank you.